so this is what if Deku was the reincarnation of Omni-Man, part 1. Now, guys, basically, now let's get started with Deku's, basically, origin story, or how he is going to be the reincarnation of Omni-Man. Now, basically, Deku's going to be the reincarnation of Omni-Man, and actually be, what was it called? Basically be, in this universe, the, let's say, a yeah, let's say this. Okay, so basically, in this universe, um, this will be a alternate universe, of Omni. Basically, in this universe, Vulture would still be, Vulture a world-conquering planet, but in this universe, Vulture actually lost track of a Vulture child, and this child was soon to be supposed to be mainstream Invincible's universe Omni-Man, but that Omni-Man was actually transferred and accidentally sent to a different planet other than a planet they were supposed to send it, a planet called Earth, but they sent it to Earth. The baby pod was sent to Earth, but they lost track of it and they didn't know where the baby pod was at. So they forever lost the child, the Voltrum child. In this universe, they actually knew that, that Omni-Man was actually the heir of the throne of Voltrum. So they tried their hardest to try to find the child. But in Thrag, or if you read the comics of Invincible, Thrag did, take up the mantle of the king of, Voltrum. So Deku, or this universe's Omni-Man, had been sent to Earth as a child. And this Omni-Man was born a lot later, so he would be born about the same day that Ken and Deku was born in the My Academia universe. So Deku would be born the same day that Deku on canon Earth would be born at. Now Deku on Earth, as Inko was actually she never had a child, and she had a problem having kids with a Saucy. So basically, it was her that she couldn't have a kid, or she was thinking about, maybe she couldn't have a kid. They haven't went to the doctor yet, but they tried for like years. But when they were out for a meteor shower to look upon, they saw one meteor shower in particular that was super big, like some sort of object, and it flew straight towards them, about about 6 feet away from them. Now they were pretty injured because of the impact, but they got back up and they looked around and they saw shards of the ship be pretty much lodged into wood and pretty much trees near them, and they pretty much opened up the pod and they saw a baby Deku. Now this baby Deku actually looked exactly like how Deku would look like if he was born in original canon in this universe. So he would have black hair and red eyes, and he would have white roots, but you couldn't see them because his black hair overgrew over the white roots. So basically, if Deku grew a beard, it wasn't like a big beard, it would still be like a white beard. Or like if he grew bristles, it would be a white beard. So basically, let's get ready and get started into the, what if. Now basically, Deku would be born the same, but since he would be full-blooded Voltrum, his powers would be activated about at the age of 5, actually. Yeah, I don't know, maybe his powers would just be activated at the age of 5. I don't know, because, like, I guess half-blooded Voltrums get their powers when they're, like, when they're, like, 15 or something. So that's what I'm going to do. Deku's going to be born with his powers, and get his powers, actually, at the age of 13 instead of 15. Because he is full-blooded. So Deku was born full-blooded, and also Deku is exceptionally strong for a Voltrum that hasn't been trained. So Deku's exceptionally gifted in flight, strength, agility, durability, senses, all that other stuff. And also, since Deku's going to be basically, he's not going to really be the reincarnation of, basically, Omni-Man. He's going to more or less be alternate version of him, but a reincarnation of him because the mainstream Invincible universe, Omni-Man would die. So that's how the My Hero Academia universe would be after Omni-Man would die in the comics of Invincible, and Omni-Man's spirit would be passed on to the other alternate version of Omni-Man in the My Hero Academia universe. So Invincible, or Deku's soon-to-be son, would not be born about a couple years after Deku becomes a pro hero in this universe, or a couple years after Deku, retires or something like that. So basically, Deku will be the number one hero because obviously he has all the powers of Omni-Man. So Deku would be raised, and he would get his powers at 13. Now Deku would be teased and bullied because he wouldn't get his powers at the age of 13, and also they pretty much pretty much Vultures are super similar to humans in bone structure and everything, but it's just that the only thing that separates them obviously is their superpowers, their durability, and also their superhuman, Superman type of strength. So meaning that they do have the same bone structure, but not the same bone, you know, marrow or bones. They have stronger, more thicker bones. So basically, Deku is pretty much teased and classified quirkless because he hasn't shown any signs of having quirk when he was 5. Deku started getting bullied a lot as a kid because they thought he was quirkless, and he didn't have anything flashy towards him as well because he was black hair. He had red eyes, but that was basically it. And they also hated Deku because, well, Deku's father, was a pro hero, but he was a pretty, he was a pretty weird pro hero. And they didn't like Deku's father because Deku's father was Endeavor's brother's hero. Because Deku would be legally Endeavor's nephew, and since Deku's father would be rich, Deku would still be bullied. By the time Deku was 5, he would be transferred to a private school and basically drive home and get picked up by his dad at Endeavor's house. So he would basically drive to Endeavor's house with Todoroki every time they went to school, and then he would get picked up by his dad to go back to his house, and then that's how the school days would go. So basically, Deku did become great friends with Todoroki, and did actually, Todoroki didn't really. Todoroki started to actually bully Deku as well, because Deku was quirkless, but he didn't really bully him a lot because they were still related, and he didn't want to be a jerk like his father. So Endeavor basically did act like a nice guy near Deku, but when Deku left, he did train, Todoroki brutally. So basically, Deku was pretty treated poorly as a child by other people. But when Deku gets powers at 13, Deku was in middle school, and nothing really interesting happened. He still got bullied, and he also got bullied by Bakugo. Now in this universe, Bakugo did go to a public school, but his mom or his dad, which one, won the lottery for some reason, I don't know, and basically went to a private school where Deku was, coincidentally, or maybe it's not coincident. But basically, Deku would be in, class, and they would introduce a new student, and that would be Bakugo Katsuki. Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo would look at Deku with a smirk, and after those about 10 weeks left of school, Deku would be about, pretty much 11 at this point. Deku would be about 11, and Bakugo would be about the same age as Deku, maybe younger or older. And he basically started bullying Deku every day. But when Deku's birthday came along, Deku started developing weird signs of powers. Deku kept on pulling the doors, hinges off in the house, started breaking plates with just slightly touching them. Deku couldn't control his strength, and Deku started floating in his room all the time. Deku went to the quirk doctor and showed off his powers, and the quirk doctor was pretty, skillier of how Deku had all these abilities, even though he was deemed quirkless when he was, went to the quirk doctor the first time. Sorry, guys. So basically, Deku would go to Quirk Doctor train, and they would classify Deku's quirk as Omni. Basically, this quirk would be called Omni because it would be all strong. They couldn't find any weakness to Deku's power or his supposed quirk. Now, since this is vulture strength, Deku's quirk erasing quirks or bullets don't hurt Deku, and plus, even if they did, the bullets wouldn't even be able to pierce through Deku's skin. So, Deku would be basically kind of a god compared to everybody in My Hero Academia. Maybe All Might can give Deku a run for his money, maybe even one for all, but honestly, Deku really went, AWOL, or like straight up just wanted to go straight up, savage mode, like he did, like how Omni Man did to the, what was it, Guardians of the Globe, that could possibly take down the whole entire My Hero Academia universe. But yeah, so basically Deku was pretty strong. Now, Deku, when he went back to school after developing his quirk, and after he was gone for about a couple days, about 3 days, Deku would walk into his room, the school, basically having a huge smile on his face. Deku sat down, and basically Bakugo walked into the pretty much room the second the bell rang. Now, basically, technically Bakugo wasn't, tardy. So Bakugo walked around, and basically they had about 10 minutes left of pretty much class before class started. Bakugo started to, bully Deku, started to tease him and throwing explosions on Deku's desk saying, "What's up, nerd?" Pretty much Deku not having a notebook in this canon because he wasn't really that much of a nerd. So Deku pretty much started saying, "Get away from me, Bakugo, or else I'm gonna have to beat you up." Bakugo starts laughing his butt off, saying, "You're gonna beat me up? You don't even have a quirk, you dummy." Pretty much starting to grab Bakugo trying to grab Deku by the shoulder, saying, "You better shut up now before I have to blow you sky high." And Deku says, "You better shut up now before I have to kill you," and gets up from his chair. And when Deku gets up, he uses his superhuman speed and pretty much sends the chair behind him flying into a wall and making pretty much the chair go into the wall like a throwing knife. Everybody was super confused on how Deku could do that, and Deku said, "I have a quirk now, Bakugo. You better step. I have a quirk now, Bakugo. Sorry, you gotta back off now before I have to do something I don't regret." Basically, Bakugo's saying, "Yeah, right. Do something. Just because you can push a chair into a wall doesn't mean you have a strong quirk." And Deku pretty much grabs Bakugo by the throat and says, "How about this?" and throws him out the window. Everybody's going crazy saying that Deku just threw him out the window. Bakugo fell into a trash can and nothing really broke. Bakugo just had a couple bruises on his body. Deku was expelled, but he just went to another private school for the remaining week of until, the entrance exams for UA. So Deku went to another private school for a couple days until the end of the year. Deku went to Deyo Beach, and his parents weren't really, surprised, because Deku did tell his parents about how Bakugo was bullying him, and his parents just said to just deal with it tomorrow when you go back to school with your quirk. Because honestly, we don't really care, because you can just go to another school, and also the school year's about to end anyways. So basically, Deku goes to Deku Beach for training, and trains his body, and also trains his body in combat training. Now Deku learned how to box amateurly. Basically, Deku knows how to box. How boxer Deku has the boxing skill of if he's trained to box for about a year. And Deku also has secondary karate skills. Deku does know a little bit of karate, doesn't know a lot to go toe to toe with somebody that mastered karate, but he knows enough to defend himself if he was ever weakened. And also, Deku doesn't really need combat training, even though he's super strong. But Deku knows how to box, professionally. And that's basically the only fighting skill Deku has, other than just boxing and street rules. So Deku knows how to jab, dodge, weave, also the other stuff. And that's basically it in Deku's combat training. Now, Deku has all the powers of Omni-Man. If you don't know, Vulture have superhuman strength, agility. No, not agility. I don't think they have flight, invulnerability, super strength. I think super senses, also regeneration. Not limb regeneration, but can heal pretty fast, like from getting cut in half or so like that. Also, Ultramites can withstand blows that are crazy, and Ultramites can actually withstand being in the core of the sun, or the face of the sun, or on top of the sun for a pretty long time before they start to die, or they start to burn up and completely die. Now, basically, the only weakness known to Vultramites are like a super powerful, only made once space blaster, a virus to biologically kill off Vultramites, and also other Vultramites. So in this universe, Deku changed his body, and since Deku found out that Vultramites, Deku found out about the whole entire, you know, he has to train or something like that. Now, when Deku started to stop training, Deku started developing that his powers were getting weaker. So he came up to, maybe my quirk has to be trained to keep it strong or by fading away. So Deku starts training his body, but technically, in the truth of it, he has to train so his Vultremite body doesn't get weak, because Vultremites have to train. So Deku started training and training over and over again, getting stronger each day, eventually becoming so strong about mm, about 90% of the strength of Omni Man. Now Deku needed about 9 more bottles of strength of Omni Man, or about a lot more training to get to the same strength of Omni Man. But even 90% of Omni Man's strength was good enough for Deku to basically beat anybody. So, and I didn't want to make Deku too OP. So Deku basically goes to UA, the entrance exams, and gets into UA. Now Deku walks into class 1A. Deku goes into the gate and basically doesn't bump into anybody, just walks up in there. And Deku pretty much gets the same talk. And everybody, finds out about the robots and everything. And Deku is pretty much in the gate, getting ready. And Deku was wearing a red version of his green jumpsuit. And basically, they got started, and Deku flied past everybody, going left and right into robots again and again, grabbing them, throwing up into the sky, and flying through them. And everybody was super impressed because they never seen a flying quirk that could let their user fly around with so much precisity and so much, speed and pretty much relentlessness. And Deku started flying around, taking out robots the same way, throwing them up into the air, punching them into buildings, taking middle pipes, and pretty much doing baseball with the robots. But when Deku came across a 0 point robot, Deku wasn't really scared at all. And Deku started to fly away because he saw everybody flying away. And plus, if we took down the 0 point robot, it wouldn't really matter, because it was 0 points. Deku started flying away slowly, but he heard a girl screaming. Deku looked down and basically saw her closely and said, and basically was contemplating about if he should save her or not, but Deku was raised to be a hero. So Deku flew down there, pretty much flicking off the rebel off of the girl, pretty easily, just, slapping the rebel off of Ochaku, pretty much grabbing Ochaku and flying her up into the sky, on top of a building that has some stairs down the building. So basically Deku said to go to the, nurse's office if you're injured, and basically she says, "Can you take me there?" And Deku's already gone. He just flew away. So Deku starts flying around more and more around the testing grounds, and eventually the sirens go off, and they get sent back home for the results. Deku gets the note from UA the next day and gets in the UA. Deku walks into class 1 the next day, and pretty much says it's the first day of me becoming, or getting closer to become a hero. Deku walks into class 1A and looks around, seeing multiple students and also a familiar face, Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo looks over the Deku and pretty much scoffs, looking away from the Deku. Deku pretty much walks by Bakugo, but stops for a second and saying, "If you ever touch me in this class, or you ever try to bully me, I'll kill you." And pretty much walks off from Bakugo. Bakugo pretty much was sweating and was about to straight up just number 2 and number 1 on himself. But, he didn't do that. So Deku pretty much walked in the back of the class where his cannon seat was at and pretty much sat down. And Deku was sitting down, let's say Deku was sitting in the middle of Jiro, Momo, in front of uh, Mina, and behind what was Ochaku. So Ochaku, now that was Ochaku's seat, but Ochaku wasn't there. So Deku walked into class and he pretty much walked over to Deku, saying, "Thank you for saving my life," blah blah blah, all that other stuff. Fangirling over Deku, saying that you have a pretty cool quirk. Basically, everybody says, "Wait, that was you that saved her?" Deku making a huge, pretty much, what was it? Pretty much making a big disturbance in the class because actually what happened is Deku did, smack the rebel off of Ochaku and then grabbed her and flew her to a building. But when he flew up, the Zero Point robot actually tried to slap Deku, but Deku pretty much was too, flying way too fast, and it pretty much Deku flew right through the Zero Pointer robot's hands, basically breaking them and killing the Zero Pointer robot. Not killing it, but making such a big shockwave into the Zero Pointer robot's body, making it go, offline and making it fall onto the ground. And didn't really talk about that much because Deku was more or less not really focused on the Zero Pointer robot at all. So Deku basically, said, "Yeah, that was me." Pretty much, talking nonchalantly because Deku was born pretty. Deku, when he grew up, Deku was kind of, off rails. Deku wasn't really interested in, talking to people at all. So Deku acted a whole entire event about everybody fangirling over him, saying that he has a pretty strong quirk and everything, and Bakugo saying that he's so manly, all the other stuff. Azawa walks into class and explains to the class that you're being way too noisy and also to go outside for quirk assessments. They go outside for quirk assessments and Deku's told to throw the ball first because he got the highest score in the entrance exams. The highest score ever in the entrance exams. Deku grabs the ball and chucks it out of the atmosphere into the sun. Azawa was super impressed by Deku's score, saying that's pretty impressive. Now, for the long jump, Deku just flies over it. For the race, Deku dominates everybody, and basically for the rest, everything else, Deku dominates everybody in all of the sports, getting first place. Now, Azawa was super impressed that Deku was so strong and so well trained. So, Azawa sends everybody back to, home after giving them all their syllabus and gets told to, basically come to school the next day. Now, before I go, guys, or I leave it off, guys, I want to explain something real quick. Now, basically, I am gonna be uploading three other what ifs today. What if Deku was absorbing man? What if Deku dated all for one's daughter? All for one's daughter, part 1 villain version, and also I will be uploading part 2 to what if Deku I will be uploading part 2 of what if Benton was in the Young Justice. Also, we'll be uploading part 1 to what if werewolves were in Young Justice. So yeah. So guys, I hope you enjoy the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Bye. Deuces, and as always, guys, be safe.